it is possible to extend personal or occasional poetry to quite some extent, I think, and I don't think I'll read all of it. Indeed, I haven't given you all of it. If you just go to take a quick look on your handouts at page 5, you'll have one of my attempts at an epic poem, which contains, I think, the shortest book of epic poetry that has ever been written. I suppose it's possible to get shorter, but only with a monosyllable. The name of the epic is the Demiad. Demi is the first name of a young Belgian scholar called Demi Verbeeker. And the story of this epic is, well, not terribly grand or tragic. It's about a little road trip we took in Belgium. And the extracts that you've got are going to the airport, to pick up my wife from the airport, and what happened there, which is a fender bender, whatever you call it, over here, hitting your car against some minor obstacle. And perhaps I'll just read you a tiny bit of that. And book 5 is the reaction to that little incident. And book 6 is a visit to the battlefield of Waterloo, which is near the airport at Charleroi, and is a very interesting place to visit. And of course, I do approve of battles where the right side won. I think that applies to the Battle of Waterloo. Just at the very end of book 3, on page 5 of your handout, there's a little punning on the French word flic, which means policeman, cop, as we say, as we say. So flic is a cop, and also conflict or whatever. And Dennis' father, now alas a late father, was chief of police in his area, so for his son to be caught speeding or something would be pretty embarrassing. So at the last line of that, flictum vult primo et flictus vitare pudore, wants to avoid the shame of this. What happens then? A very short but very dramatic book. Murder! I won't translate that, but I'm sure you can work it out. It's similar to the French word of that nature. And then the drama continues in a couple of ensuing books, which I think I perhaps, for reasons of time, won't read through. So I think occasional personal poetry can be entertaining. I don't claim it's of grand or universal value, but I think it's interesting. And if you think about what Latin poetry is for, very often it is personal reasons, but the personal and the private can also become public, and I hope it is of potential public interest. In terms of who might be the audience for Latin poetry, it is worthwhile remembering that most vernacular English poetry doesn't actually have an enormous audience in the printed or oral form. Of course, there are some extremely famous poets who have a huge readership, but there are not that many of them, certainly not in my country. And they don't travel very well to non-English speaking countries either. It's extremely rare in continental Europe, very often, to find people who read any English poetry at all by any Englishman or any American. That's just the way it is. So there are, in fact, ways when poetry in Latin as a universal language, at least among the relatively small international community of Latin readers, can get to places where English poetry can't. We're going to pause in the middle of our time to listen to just a few poems from participants at this week's workshop, and to give you a rest from my voice, but I'm afraid there is more to come. Sorry about that. Sneak out quietly when nobody's looking if you've had enough.